Hello everyone and welcome to Money with Mark Albert. Bank of Canada had a rate announcement today, today being April the 15th, 2020, and I want to talk about what that announcement was, but one of the things we want to do a little differently on this video is talk about a number of the actions that the Bank of Canada have taken to kind of bridge the gap between our current containment situation that's going to allow us to have a better recovery when the economy starts kicking back in. So I want to address that for you. I listened to their announcement and I read on what their announcement was today as well. So I just want to help us with that. Some positive news here, so stick around. If this is something you like, please subscribe because the next rate announcement is going to be June 3rd. We'll see what the Bank of Canada has to say then. And these are the rest announcements that they have for the remaining of 2020. So the Bank of Canada have a big role to play in what's going on right now and helping us maintain inflation properly over the long term. So let's take a look here. What they decided is they were going to maintain the rate. They maintain it. Currently, the overnight lending rate is 0.25%. In the last 3 weeks, it's dropped by 1.5%. So this is where we at. The rate's really low, which is good. All right. Historically, if we go back to September 2018, we see all where the rate was at. The white represents when there was a rate change. Okay, so September 2018 there was a rate change. Then we went a long period of time until January 20, where they maintained the rate, and then in March we had 3 rate drops of 0.5%. And then here we maintain April 15. So that's really interesting. Aggressive drop in the rate in March, and now they're maintaining it. Okay, but there's some positive stuff here, and we'll look at that. So the Bank of Canada, they're a central bank, right? So that's what they are. So in the U.S., they call it the central bank or the Fed, and in Canada, we call it the Bank of Canada. So their primary role, the principal role, is to promote the economy and financial welfare of Canada. So they have a strategic role to play, and that is in keeping with the Bank of Canada Act. So they are doing a smash-up job, and I want to address that here. So the Bank of Canada's actions are aimed at helping to do 2 things here. Is bridge the current period of containment. So we're in containment, we're in isolation, under quarantine. The economy, there's a lot of activity within the economy that's still happening, but a lot of us are not able to participate in it, or a lot of us have been laid off. So they're doing some things that the bridge between when we were all working and the economy was moving forward to when the economy is going to go into recovery. So they're taking strategic action, and I'm going to address that in a few moments here. So that plus they're creating the conditions, create the conditions for a sustainable recovery. So not just a recovery, but something that's sustainable. It's going to get us to where we need to go, and the achievement of the inflation target over time. So they want inflation to be the target rate is 2%. Now obviously I think we may have been down to 9%. I forget what the number is exactly for March, but the inflation dropped significantly in March and will be low for the next few months potentially. But then we'll probably see that start growing at some point. All right. So some action that the Bank of Canada have taken. All right. So we got 6 things here I want to show you. So they've lowered their rate, as I mentioned, 1.5%. or 150 basis points in the last 3 weeks. Okay, so that's strategic. And it's conducted lending operations to financial institutes and asset purchases in core funding markets, accounting for around $200 billion. So they've spent about $200 billion kind of in the past to fund, banks and institutes so they can lend out. And they're buying bonds so that it supports government initiatives. So let's look at a few more things. So they have been purchasing around $5 billion per week of Government of Canada bonds. Okay, so when we get all through this, at some point in the future, I'm going to do a video on government debt, and I will address that issue on a future video, probably later this year. But we want to get through this right now, and right now this is what we have to do to get through that. So the provincial government have been having issues. So in the next several weeks, they're going to participate at buying provincial bonds, so from the provinces in Canada. So there's a provincial bond purchase program, and they're gonna put in up to $50 billion. Hasn't happened yet, but in the next several weeks they're gonna start participating in that. They announced that today. But also they announced corporations, they can issue bonds, and to support them, there's a corporate bond purchase program, and they're gonna put in up to $10 billion in buying bonds within that program from corporations. Okay, so these are all bond related, bond being debt, and so we're going to address the debt issue, the debt concept once we start recovering out of this. Okay, there's important stuff they're doing now, and it's laying a foundation to support what's our current containment, and it's going to help us when we get into recovery. All right, now one thing, term repo facility. So Bank of Canada is further enhancing the term repo facility to permit funding for up to 24 months. So what is the term repo facility? Well, the contingent term repo facility, contingent is like a secondary or a backup scenario. Is the Bank of Canada's standing repo facility to counter two things. To counter any severe market-wide liquidity stresses, and to support the stability of the Canadian financial system. So on a life insurance policy, you've got the beneficiary, and then you have the contingent beneficiary. So the beneficiary is the one who would receive the benefit, and then if that person is has passed away, then it goes to the contingent, the secondary one. So this is like a secondary program as a backup. So we have redundancy built into the system, which is fantastic. All right. So there's a lot of positive things going on here. As difficult as it is to be in isolation, there's some positive things that the Bank of Canada are doing to support where we are and where we need to go. So I would say subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The next rate announcement is June 3rd. Looking forward to sharing that with you to see what's going on. Stay safe, be well, and look forward to talking to you soon.